my name is Zachary McGlynn. We are back checking out some awesome old kit that may have gone under the radar for you guys to check out for your studio. And of course, Sam Willis from ONS and Ecstatic Recordings is here. How you doing?
Good to be back.
Yes, indeed. So the Korg Electribe is what we're checking out today. Kind of a more of a famous name than maybe the other guys here.
Yes.
Because they've got a few different iterations. I know this one's your favourite.
Yeah, I've owned most of them apart from the newest one, and for me this one really stands out. It has a particularly sort of, again, quite lo-fi quality. It samples at 32 kilohertz as opposed to sort of CD quality, which is 44.1. So it has immediately a certain kind of crunchiness to it. Yeah. Also, the effects in it are great. There's a whole range of multi-effects which you can use not only on the individual elements within the machine, but you can also put external signals through it as well, so you can process your other bits of kit or take stuff from the computer and run that through it as well, and just really get your hands on and perform. Like, it's a very straightforward layout how the thing's set out. You have 8 sample slots here which can be laid out at your preference, so you can choose whether to have kicks or snares, hi-hats, pads on any one of them. Mm-hmm. Each one has its own series of controls, so you have pitch, individual filter, level, pan, effect, send. There's one effect which acts for the whole 8 slots, and then a delay on the master, which is kind of a crazy idea. You can really get some amazing kind of weird sounds out of it. So I've got a track which I've made previously in here, which I use in my live show for the tactility and the ability to change things. So we can just get that going and you can hear what it sounds like. So there's a master delay on there. So it has like a really nice groove to it. Automatically you've got a swing setting that you can change, and you have 4 separate sets of 16 notes on here which you can change and on the fly edit things. You can change the pitch of different elements, you change the effect. So you can really kind of get stuck in and reverse things. Different effects. So you've got the decimator, which sort of really crunches the sound up. There's a lot of experimentation and trial and error where you could get something. It sounds a bit rubbish at the moment, but if you keep working on it and you keep changing the different steps, you can even on the fly change the different samples in it. So you can suddenly end up with something really quite radically different to what you had before. And then you apply the master delay. But for me, where I tend to get most usage out of it is as a sort of performance tool for individual elements. So when I have a full track running, it's great to be able to sort of grab this, pick a sample, and mess around with the effects, dial in the sort of pitch that you want, dial in the level of distortion or pitch change, and then you've got the delay on the master to be able to kind of create sort of tripped out elements for sort of rises which you can then reverse in the computer, or you've got little fills, and it helps to sort of perform along to a track and then just freak out and just try all different, just change parameters and see what you get out, put reverb on it. So it's a very much a sort of pick up and play piece of kit, which for the price is sort of very cheap, and it's one of the things I come back to again and again just for getting inspiration. And you can also send, each one of these slots has an assigned MIDI note number which you can then plug into your synths and use it as a step sequencer to create random patterns, which if you then combine it with the drum sounds that are on each one, you get some really melodic choices, and interplay with the percussive pieces as well. So it's as a sort of almost a generative music machine. It's a real really good way to break through a kind of creative slump. If you're thinking about putting together a track in Ableton where you've got to lay everything out in a very regimented way, this is just an amazing way to blow through those blocks and just to
So you could use this to sequence your samples in Ableton, or you could load them on an SD card, is that right?
Exactly, so you have an SD card in the back here, which you can plug into a card reader. And one of the annoying limitations is that in order to transfer it, you need to name them 0 to 99 and then individually load them onto the unit. But you can save to the memory of the card. You can dump the full contents each time, so you can have multiple versions of 99 samples. So within here you have, I think it's 15 stereo and 99 mono samples. So you can choose any one of the, I think up to 9 banks of 99. Right. So if you put, one thing I did, I spent a good few hours putting together a number of different sets of samples, all of different characters. And actually one of the most important things, which I only forgot to tell you about, is because this unit came with factory sounds in it already, they'd already programmed a bunch of melodies and drum parts and what have you. But if you load it with your own samples, which are all kind of like randomly assigned to numbers, you get some really interesting happy accidents where they had like a really cheesy bass, double bass sound, which if you replace that with an 808, suddenly sounds really cool. So you can strip away the stuff that's not working and take the stuff that you do like. In fact, this track that I was just playing you, the melodic part of this, if I just reset that, this sound was already pre-pitched, and I just went through until I found a sound that I liked, and then that was the center of the track. So it's an amazingly inspiring piece of kit, for just to generate ideas which you can then integrate with other parts of your studio. Yeah. And speaking of which, we have it hooked up to Ableton here as well. That's right, we do. So we can process the audio coming in, which is from the CS80 plugin by Arturia. So we can, if we press the audio in, you can hear that coming through now. That's the clean, unprocessed sound, which in itself, I should say, is slightly coloured by going through the converters. And something you can do is you can slightly distort it if you kind of gain it through the line input there. So if we apply, let's start with a reverb. You often have weird aliasing effects, like kind of interesting sort of digital kind of overloading. So if we put some delay on it. If you play with the time, it's sort of shifting in and out, sort of glide. Then you can get a bit more kind of bizarre, create some real kind of interesting psychedelic textures, which again is just so much more fun than sort of drawing in with them, drawing in a automation pencil on a screen in an automation line. It's just to get your hands on it and just to have a session of just jamming over your track and just turning dials, turning knobs, and just freaking out and seeing what comes out of it. So yeah, but you got to hold that down. I just noticed you're saying. Yeah, that's one of the annoying limitations is that you can pass audio straight through by pressing this button, but in there, but it bypasses the effects. It bypasses the effects. In their great wisdom, for some reason, Korg thought that it'd be a good idea that you'd actually have to hold maybe they have 3 hands in the Korg design department. Down, but I have in the past been known to sort of balance a coffee cup on it at the right angle, which is probably a bit dangerous. Tape it down. I have considered whether it'd be worth sort of wedging it out and trying to permanently stick it in, but yeah, I don't want to take the risk of breaking it. If anyone knows how to maybe change it. Oh, Declan's been trying to get on his nerves trying to figure out how to get this to work. But because it sounds really cool. You have your source being synth or whatever it is, and then suddenly you've just got all these amazing effects. And I mean, this thing goes for, what were we saying, like 100 quid? Yeah, just over 100 quid. And so it's a guitar pedal. It's basically a guitar pedal, but you've got. But it has its own. So much more. You do, but I think specifically with this, it really, having used a lot of guitar pedals, they're designed as individual modular components. So here's a delay, here's a sort of pitch, here's a chorus. Whereas with this, the most important aspect, I think, is just how usable it is. Like, it's everything is like a split second away if you just turn and twist and essentially dial through options to get to the kind of sweet spot of something that you find inspiring. And in terms of going back to putting external audio through it, I think that's something that I immediately was really excited when I understood what passing audio from a DAW, from a plugin, out through any form of electronic kit, not necessarily expensive analog stuff, this is cheap digital kit, would impart a certain kind of character and a feeling which was just lacking with any number of expensive Waves plugins or whatever. This really does do something else. I would encourage anybody who hasn't tried, you know, picking up a sort of, even if it is a guitar pedal, try some stuff out and just see if you can just experiment and get something that kind of just excites you. Because I think that's something that I've found in my journey through audio has been that the things that genuinely sort of thrill me often tend to come in boxes rather than on a computer screen. You just get like more of an emotional response of, oh, that sounds really cool, which working in a DAW is more of a sort of straightforward experience. And I think the way I've ended up working now is to have the DAW almost as a tape machine, where it's capturing all of the sort of performances and all of my different machines with their different personalities in one place, and then that's the happy medium for me, is the best of both worlds.
And it gets you away from that loop-based loop bracket.
Exactly, because you're performing it as you're kind of working through, and it'll take you out of, as you say, that sort of 16-bar regimented sort of format, because you'll find yourself just doing what feels right rather than the sort of prescriptive thing of looking at blocks of colours on the screen.
Yeah, totally. And each of these things, the actual effects parameters can be sequenced too, right?
Yes, they can. So if you, what I'll often do is create a vanilla pattern and then just have, say, a hi-hat. Let me just create that quickly now. So if I just quickly reset this pattern and then just take out the stuff that's already in here. So if we get a sample, so if we just get, say, a rhythmic part like this, and obviously you get the tempo, the same one as your DAW. Maybe
can you sync it?
You can sync it to Ableton. You can send in a MIDI input and then record the input back in again. But if we have like a simple, just a simple sort of percussive, what you can then do is it allows you to record either a trig hold or smooth, so you can have a sort of glide portamento sort of smooth, or a trig where you're kind of pitching. So hence we were talking about it being a poor man's octatrack. You can kind of create, you can create some cool patterns, which if we then apply an effect to that, and then delay.
Instant the knife.
Exactly, it's actually, it's true. But then, so you've got that running, and you can just, and you've got all these little kind of differences which you can, you know, do a sort of 2-minute performance of just subtle kind of twists that will keep it engaging, keep it evolving and interesting, and you perform that. You don't then have to go in and like draw in and like just and I think you'll feel ultimately a lot kind of more engaged and sort of happy with what you've done, because you performed it rather than just more of an accountant kind of like filling in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the Korg ES1 Mark II. You can get it for about, was it 120?
Yeah,
100 quid on eBay, so check it out. Really good for sequencing and reprocessing your stuff with effects. We'll be back soon with another bit of kit you cannot miss, so we'll see you then.